Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It has been a whole journey getting here. Do we have the slides up? Let's have the slides up, please. It's been a whole journey getting here, and I'm just like, finally, today is here. Today is here. You know, like when you're planning an event, the amount of things that happen is incredible. It's incredible. You know, there are canceled flights and mistakes here and this and that and that and those. So just standing here today is a whole testimony. So now you're not appreciating me, but you're appreciating the God that has made today possible. So let's put our hands together and celebrate Jesus. He's made today possible. Thank you. So today I'm going to be speaking about something that is now gripping at the corners of my heart. And my topic really is, let's save our children. Every time I see June 29, I'm always excited because it's my birthday. So today is not just birthday, but we're doing something really remarkable in the world. And my topic is just simply that, let's save our children. Next slide, please. So a little about me after the long introduction by Dami Busari. The way she pronounces her surname, like at first I thought it was Busari. And she's like, no, it's Busari. So about me, I'm a health coach, yes. But I've never had a health challenge. I've never had a kid with a diet-related health challenge. We're standing here today for a child wellness event. And it's interesting because there are times when I genuinely question, like, why do you have this thing? Like, you've never had a health challenge. You don't have a kid who's, trying to heal from a health challenge. So what is your pedigree? Why are you doing this? So that's it about me. I've never had one. I'm a sociologist. So my first degree is actually in sociology. I'm not a nutritionist. Actually now, because I'm on the field, I've had to learn about it. But I'm actually a sociologist by training. However, there's just one thing, there's just one reason why I'm here. Because I believe I have been chosen for this assignment. I believe I have been chosen for it. And I remember, chosen and sent to preach this message. And I remember clearly it was beginning of 2023. And I had a dream, and in the dream I just saw Sentinel. Next slide, please. In the dream I saw Sentinel. Next slide. And I'm going to read the scripture. So Sentinel. I don't know that I had heard the word before. I mean, the one we're most familiar with would have to be watchman. But I had Sentinel. So I'm like, okay, let's check out what does Sentinel mean. Then I go to scripture. Like you heard, I'm a Jesus girl through and through. I go to scripture, like, what does Sentinel mean? And I see it in Ezekiel 33, 1-4, and I'm going to read it. It says, the word of the Lord came to me. O Eziaha, let's just put my name there. O Eziaha, speak to your people and say to them, if I bring the sword upon a land, and the people of the land take one of their number as their sentinel, and if the sentinel sees the sword coming upon the land, you see where the sentinel is? Sentinel is at like this elevated place where you can literally see danger coming and you have to alert the land. So it says if sentinel sees the sword or danger coming upon the land and blows the trumpet and warns the people, then if any who hear the sound of the trumpet do not take warning, and the sword comes and takes them away, their blood will be upon their own heads. So the sentinel is supposed to make the noise, make the sound like, hey, I can see danger coming. And if people do not adjust and take care of themselves so that the danger doesn't affect them, the Bible says that the blood will be on their own heads. Next slide, please. They heard the sound of the trumpet and they did not take warning. Their blood shall be upon themselves. But if they had taken warning, they would have saved their lives. But if the sentinel sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, so that the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes any of them, They are taken away in their iniquity, but their blood I will require at the sentinel's hand. What does that mean? So the sentinel sees danger coming and doesn't blow the trumpet, doesn't say, hey, you guys take care, something is about to happen. The Bible says, yes, the danger is going to come, but it's going to be when the blood is spilled, when the evil happens, they're going to require the sentinel to actually take responsibility for it. Verse 7, so you mortal, Eziaha, I have made you a sentinel for the house of Israel. Whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you shall give them warning from me. Next slide. And this is the warning. What is the warning? So I'm just spotlighting Ezekiel 33 and 7. It says, you mortal, I have made you, Eziaha, I have made you a sentinel. For now, I've called you, I have chosen you, I have sent you to do this thing. It says, whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you give them the warning. And what is the word? That there's a global health crisis. We even already know this. There's a global health crisis. There's a junk food pandemic. And the future is not looking good for our children health-wise. So that's really the assignment. That's why I'll do all of this work. Like I said, I don't have a personal challenge on this. I feel like sometimes when people have a personal challenge, their stories are more powerful because it's like, oh, I waited for a child for maybe like 7 years or 10 years. Your story is really powerful. But when someone comes and like I got pregnant literally the night of my wedding, it's a bit different. But I just believe that I have been chosen and I have been sent for this assignment. So the future is not looking good, and that's the truth. Health-wise, we literally have to save our children. Now, as I've been on this journey, because now I have to do research, I have to listen to people speak, I have to do all the things. I now see how bad it is, but even I don't even know the import of how it is, but I'm going to be on the assignment to continue to sound the alarm. To continue to sound the alarm, to continue to blow the trumpet, that there is a health crisis. There's a global health crisis. There's a junk pandemic. If we do not change the ways that we feed our children, the way that we feed our children, whether in public or in private, in your homes, then it's not looking good. It's really not looking good. So next slide. Okay, so there's a story that's, maybe 5 years ago I heard this story. So I'm a health coach and my expertise is really helping people lose weight. And I'm pretty good at that. So I was coaching this particular client. I call my client Citizens. And she's a doctor. She's still a doctor, yes. She's a doctor. And she had all kinds of health challenges. I'm saying many challenges. It was literally not just, it was affecting the regular quality of her life, day-to-day life. It was a lot. It was a lot. And for someone who's a doctor, she also knew a lot. And I was coaching her. And I'm like, okay, we need to make these adjustments to your diet. And I think she had paid me for like a whole year because she was willing to do the work. And I'm like, oh, we need to make this adjustment to your diet. We need to do this. We need to do that. And she knew everything that she was supposed to do. But for some reason, she couldn't do them. She was constantly falling. She was constantly making mistakes. She was constantly not getting what she needed to do right. So at some point, I called her, let's have a real conversation. Hey, babe, why are you struggling so much? Why are you struggling so much? Why? You know what to do. You're a doctor. You can see what is going wrong. You can see it. So why are you struggling so much? And she's like, Coach, it's not your fault. Because at some point you're thinking, maybe it's my fault. Is there something? Because I'm literally like, what else can I do? How can I help you? And she's like, see, it's not your fault. When I was younger, my mom, whenever she would put real food in front of me, rice, beans, whatever the real food is, whenever she put it in front of me and I would reject it and I would not want to eat it, she would take it away and she would bring junk. So she said, I grew up on junk food. At that point, she was about 35. I grew up on junk food. So to break out of it, I don't know that it's something that we can do easily. And at that point, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is real. Because her health, I'm telling you, she had done all kinds of things for her health, but it kept on going progressively worse. And she knew it was a case of diet, but she still couldn't help it because many years. So she was telling me, Coach, you are dealing with 35 years of the wrong habits. So I'm not sure how we're going to change it now. I don't know, I really don't know her story now, but we couldn't reach any major breakthrough. That's the truth. And when I think of that story, my heart actually breaks because we are setting up our children now for what could be like a life of freedom and joy and health and, the ability to jump up and down and enjoy yourself. Or they could be at that point where they're dealing with unnecessary, absolutely avoidable health challenges. Like I said, I don't know how my citizen's story ended. I know it's still ongoing, but it definitely is a story that I will never forget. And she literally, at that point, was blaming her mom. She's like, I blame my mom. And I'm like, well, I don't know who to blame. But that's one story that now gives me the energy, the ginger to keep going. Like, no, if we shout enough now, there are people who will make the right choices today so that 20 years down the line, there's something one of my most amazing mentees would say, Dami, she's like, the child I'm raising now would not have to keep praying away sicknesses and diseases. Why? Because she's already on the right path. I mean, by the grace of God, because at the end of the day, food is one thing. We still need the grace of God for everything to happen, but we're going to do the part that we know to play. So that's one story I'll never forget. All right, next slide. So I was speaking to one of the speakers that will be here, Onyinye. I was talking to her maybe like a couple of weeks ago. That was my first meeting of Onyinye. So she's the mom who literally reversed autism with diets, like wild. So I was talking to her, and then among the many things she was saying, she said, our kids have a purpose too. Because as adults, we're like, what's my purpose? What's my goal? We all want to discover our purpose. But King David, my son here, has a purpose. Eljon has a purpose. The ones that we're still maybe carrying in the womb or we're carrying as babies, they all have a purpose. So it's not like they'll only know that purpose when they become adults. So when we think of how we're desperate about discovering our purpose, that's how our kids too have a purpose that must be discovered. And I want to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the very base is the cycle. So our kids have a purpose too. And a poor diet should not stop it. A poor diet, like food, is the truth. I was going to say really it's not. Should not be. Food should not be so powerful to stop it. Food should enhance. But if you have a child who is constantly in and out of the hospital if you have a child who is constantly in and out of hospital, when you could have avoided it with a great diet, then we are actually affecting their purpose. So look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the very base, of course, at the top is self-actualization. Every one of us wants to get to that point, and that's a goal for all of us, right? But at the very base of it is just the basic physiological needs. If our kids are going to get to self-actualization, where you are happy, you've lived a life that you truly enjoy, you've lived a legacy life, like my mentor would say. It starts from here. And what's at the base of the physiological needs? Air, water, food. Food. Before we get up to the next one of safety and love and belonging and self-esteem and self-actualization, which is the goal, it starts with food. So with how, I feel like it's so easy. No, I don't feel like, I know that it's really easy to get. I'm looking at my son, he's wearing the socks on his hand because he's saying that he's cold. Oh my God. So at that base, if we get it right from the base, because that's what it keeps building on. It just keeps building and building and building. But if the diet is wrong, where do we even start from? And I feel like it's so easy. It's so easy. Like it's so easy. Angie, do you know, I didn't see you say it. I kept on saying, who is this? Hi. When I was talking about you, I didn't even know you were here. Okay, one of my speakers is here. I'm really excited. Okay, so it starts from here. Our kids have a purpose. Our kids have a purpose. Our kids have a purpose. A poor diet can literally affect that purpose. But with a great diet, we can just keep guiding them and helping them nicely to the discovery of their purpose. Next slide. I know it's interesting. Most of us have kids who are Gen A. Maybe a few of us Gen Zs, but most of us really have kids who are Gen A. And as much as there are many opportunities for the Gen As and the Gen Zs, there's also a lot of challenges that they have to face. And that's the truth. There are many challenges that they have to face. They're the most socially connected, yet, oh my goodness, yet most lonely. So as much as, yes, there's social media, there's all the connections that we have, but they're also the most lonely generation. And we know that it's going to get worse as time goes on, right? There's anxiety literally at psychiatry level. The amount of anxiety, I mean, there's a fair amount of anxiety that we can deal with. But we're saying anxiety at psychiatry levels. There's stress, there's depression, there's drug abuse. Of course, there's sexual identity perversion and all kinds of identity perversions. And then there's more. There's so much already that our children would have to deal with as they grow older. There's already, minus any health challenge, there's already so much that they're going to deal with. So do we want to make it worse by adding very avoidable health challenges to the mix? Like they've not done anything yet, but they're already dealing with this. Then we now add the challenges that, and you know the thing with the way ill health can be is so disruptive. Ill health is so disruptive. Let's move on quickly. I just looked at my time. Okay, let's move on. Please, can we go to the next slide? So, and when we talk of save our children, it's actually beyond nutrition. It's beyond our diet. There's actually, I feel like it's an all-inclusive call to action. So while I might be looking at it from the diet perspective, there's someone else who has been called to look at it from another perspective. You know, a friend of mine, she was telling me how one of the things she believes God has called her to do is to teach children how to express their creativity in writing. So they're able to say what's on their mind, write it out and all that. So she has a camp this summer for children like that. And I'm like, that's so powerful because when we learn to express ourselves in writing, there's something it does for us. There's just something amazing that it does for us. So we don't know the kind of, every one of us, there's just some part that we have to play. For me, it's nutrition. For you, it could be identity. For you, it could be whatever thing it is. But I feel like our children are not getting as much attention as they need. So whatever call that the Lord has given any one of us that has to do with children, we have to literally be on guard. We literally have to be on assignment because we must save our children. So save our children is not just for nutrition, it's for every other thing. Next slide, please. So I'm going to share, which is why, of course, I've written this fantastic book, and we'll get an opportunity. Of course, we all get a copy of the book. I'll get an opportunity to hear a bit more about the book, so I'll move on from that. Please, next. So I'm going to share 5 disruptive. I think the slide is better here. I'm going to share 5 disruptive mindsets and action shifts that we must have to save our children and raise wellness champions. And I'm particular about the term disruptive because you have to disrupt something. We're going to have to change the way that we think. Then we're going to have to change the way that we act. If we're going to save our children, literally, because it's a real battle that we're facing. Next slide. So the first disruptive mindset will be water as king. As in just water. I mean, I actually desire and I look forward to, and I know that I will see it as a result of this revival that is going on, where you go for children's parties and you have water. You just have water. In addition to anything else, you just give them water. One of our speakers was saying how he was at a 1-year-old party and it was just all kinds of sugars. Water. Water as king. See what Children's Health, the website says. Kids are consuming too much sugar and their health is at risk. Children should only have about 3 to 6 teaspoons of sugar each day, which is 12 to 24 grams. Today, children are consuming as much as 16 teaspoons of sugar daily. This excess sugar can lead to obesity and serious health conditions. So they're constantly always drinking something. There's just water. I remember, I'll share that in the next slide. So I want us to see water. So when you give your children stuff in their lunch boxes, just put water. Let's just drink water. Kids come to your house to visit you. Just give them water. I'm not saying don't entertain them with other things, but just give water. We can do it. We literally can do it. Water needs to be glorified. Again, water. Just water. Water as king. Next, disruptive mindset and action shift. This one is huge. Religious institutions and kids snacks. Why do we feel a need? Our children are in church for probably 2 hours because now church is not long again, let's face it. But in those 2 hours, we've given them all kinds of things. We're just giving them and giving them. And I'm like, what's going on? I like this headline. Holy unhealthy eating. How to stop churches from sending people to heaven early. I feel like the church is one place we haven't looked into very well. Just give them water. You know, my church, I attend Daystar. And this was way back when I joined Daystar first. They give us like a pack. And they were saying how everything in the pack belongs to you, but the white paper belongs to us. And inside the pack, it was only water I saw. And I'm like, I'm used to Coke. I'm used to, drinks inside the pack. So why are they giving us only water? But now I appreciate it. Water, just drink water. Now, when we have all this, especially in children's churches, honestly, and if you must give, first of all, we must release ourselves from the need to overfeed the children in church. They actually eat at home, then they'll eat when they get home. So those 2 hours, they're actually okay. They're actually okay. If you have kids, you know that there are times when, if they are really engaged, they forget to eat. It's just what's it called? We're not questioning some things. That's why we're doing it. The church doesn't need to give them. The worst one is all those things that are made from white flour. They're the worst. I don't know where they fried it. I don't know where they got it from, but you're giving children. Stop it. Religious institutions and kid snacks. Wholly unhealthy eating, because you can't pray it away. That's the truth. You can't pray it away. Next slide, please. The third disruptive mindset is to rethink breakfast cereals. And really breakfast in general. We tend to think of breakfast as bread, cereal, but why can't you give beans for breakfast? It didn't come in the Bible like, breakfast is bread, breakfast cereal. No, those things are not real. You can actually choose to give your children something else for breakfast. Rethink it. Breakfast cereal is a production of manufacturers and marketers. It's not the way it's supposed to be. Manufacturers decided that we will make people start to think breakfast, cereal, and now we just think breakfast is cereal. No, breakfast can be rice, breakfast can be beans, breakfast can be yam, it can be potato. It doesn't have to be bread, it doesn't have to be cereal. I think cereal is just the worst, and every time I see cereal like this, I'm just like, no. So start to rethink breakfast. Before you serve this wellness champion something for breakfast, ask, do you have to give this? You don't. And everything I'm telling you is what I live out. Is what I live out. Because I'm like, I like to ask myself, why? Why? Before I take any action, why am I doing it? I couldn't justify breakfast cereal. Back to church. If the church feels a need if the church feels a need to give children something, then give them the kind of biscuit that doesn't have cream in the middle, that is not too sugary. Just plain, they'll be okay, and water. I promise you, those kids will be really fine. Third disruptive mindset, or is that the fourth? The fourth disruptive mindset. Next. Healthy children's parties and party packs. Honestly, this just requires creativity. If we think a lot more, we're able to get creative when it comes to children's parties. It's almost like we go and we just, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it's supposed to be. And then you now have all kinds of sugar. I remember I did it for my first son, maybe his second birthday, first school birthday. I had the whole thing. By the second one, I'm like, no, everybody take a book and we're going to be okay. And it's fine. When you have children's parties, a lot more creativity. And we realize that we don't need to overload the children with sugar. There's sugar everywhere. There's literally sugar everywhere. So you come for children's parties, what you want to create is the most memorable experience for the child, as opposed to doing things that the body would suffer from later. A little bit of creativity, moms. A little bit of creativity, parents, dads. You can have a most amazing children's party without overloading everybody with junk. You know, when my children go for parties, first of all, I'm careful about the parties they go for. Then if they go, we don't have to eat everything there. No. All right, next, final disruptive mindset. Lunchbox purity in schools. Schools literally have to, it shouldn't be like Mondays and Wednesdays are fruits and water only days. Every day should be fruits and water only days. Every day. But I remember someone told how when some kids open their lunch boxes, like the junk aisle of a supermarket, everything is supersized. like everything. Why? We can literally promote. So if you're a school owner or you have that kind of influence over children, when Miss Tenny came, Miss Tenny Eljon said, oh, I know why Miss Tenny is here, because she always tells us not to eat junk, and if someone brings junk, she won't let them eat it on fruits and water only day. And I'm like, yeah, that's why she's here. But it's not only, I'm actually daring to say, don't only have fruits and water only day, that are Tuesdays and Thursdays. No, every day. Every day. Parents may complain at first, but trust me, we'll all adjust. We'll all adjust. Fruits, water, and snacks, then real food. Real food. And now there's a bonus mindset I want to bring in, disruptive mindset. Actually, it's not the bonus, it's number 6. Healthy eating is expensive, but is it? Because it's really a game of numbers. One thing I like to do a lot is to crack the numbers, like check, I follow the numbers. So if we're saying it's expensive, what again are we spending money on? Once I do that, I'm happy to invest into my family's meals because it's worth it. It's an investment. It's a legacy investment. Yes, Topa and I were driving around Lagos looking for something. I was looking for something healthy to eat. And she was like, you know, if you found like a smoothie or like something healthy, it would probably be like 2,000 naira. But if I was going to buy a bottle of canned drink or whatever, it's like 500. I'm like, yeah, maybe we should just all drink water and be okay. Yes, so yes, it can be pricey. But I do know that when you start on the journey and you keep going, these things actually start to get easier to handle. You start to find creative ways to save money. You start to see where it's a game of numbers. Let's remove from here and let's put it here. You just find that things balance. I beg. It's a game of numbers. Plus, what is really expensive is spending time in the hospital. Is your child going in and out? No, that's really expensive and disruptive. You can't even put a price on good health. So yes, and then the next. So the bonus point is, please don't let anybody use your head. Hey, God. The more I study, the more I check, the more I look, I see how the labels in front of you just is sugar-free or low in sugar. My sister is low in sugar, but is high in many other nonsense. It's just safest for many of us to really start to, yes, get you as a mom, as a father, as a parent, as an influencer over children. You literally have to know how to read labels. And it's not hard. It's not hard. It's not complicated. I know that sometimes you see all the things. Like I said, I'm a sociologist, but I've had to learn this thing. For the sake of my children, let's check what's going on, what is inside here. And that's something you see in the book. Once you start to see things that you can't pronounce, it's not good. If someone says 5 alive, if there's a drink that says that they have 5 fruits inside and they show you 5 fruits, it should have 5 fruits. You shouldn't have poly something, zodo something, dodo something. Just have orange, pineapple, watermelon. Do you get that food? Once food ingredients start to be more than 5, it's already compromised. So get labeling stuff. If not, people will use your head, and you don't want them to use your head. So everyone really should be a wellness champion, not just children, but also adults. We should all be wellness champions. And then so my final words really is that there's a health crisis. There's a health crisis. When I was doing the Instagram live for this, as we prepared for this, I was exposed even more to it, and I'm like, yes, it's real. It's real. And to think that it's food. Food is actually a blessing from God. And one thing I should have said about water, I learned it from Joyce Meyer. She was like, God created many foods. When it comes to liquid, he created only one liquid, and that's water. Some people are drinking more of what God did not create. Yeah, that's about water. But really, on this journey to raising wellness champions, it's really real. If we don't do something, if we don't change the narrative now, if we don't start to feed our children healthier, if we do not start this disruptive thinking and start to question why, the future is not looking good. And then the purpose that God has created our children for, it really would not be accomplished. But I know that whether you're listening to me online or you're here in the room or you watch it later, we're all able to raise wellness champions. So together, are we committing to saving our children? Are we committing to saving our children?